And Pat, I just want us to catch up a little bit right now, maybe for a viewer that is just learning about this investigation for the first time. Could you lay us out the timeline and the key parts of this back and forth?
Well, speaking of investigations, first, I have to wonder, did you get some, like, Connor Stalions advanced scouting on the rock, paper, scissors there?
Oh, he did.
Were you prepared?
I can neither confirm nor deny, Pat.
He called Connor.
I plead the fifth.
Connor.
Just had to check. You looked awfully prepared. No, to the point of the Tennessee investigation, yeah, this is a wild one. I've had somebody, a source who's involved, say this will be a firefight of epic proportion, and I think we're seeing that with the responses that's been coming out of Tennessee, the chancellor, the athletic director, the lawsuit, and possibly other lawsuits to come. This all began the NCAA trying to get the NIL genie, so to speak, back in the bottle in terms of pay for play, which is what the rules were supposed to prohibit. But then that kind of just got out, and everybody was involved in basically using NIL money as recruiting inducements. So with that backdrop, the NCAA has tried to prosecute cases. They feel like they got enough information to go forward here. They have not formally delivered a notice of allegations, but it's clear they think there were substantive major violations by Tennessee, and Tennessee's fighting back because nobody's afraid of the NCAA anymore. So where this goes, we don't know, but the stakes are very high for Tennessee. They're coming off another infractions case that was finalized during the summer, which they got 18 level 1 violations, and they were lucky they didn't get a postseason ban. So you add this on top of that, stakes escalate.
And Pat, just from reading up some of the background on this, one of the things that stood out to me is the NCAA, in a case like this, can use circumstantial evidence. It's not the information gathering that we had seen in the past. So I'm sure they feel certain. But if you're Tennessee, you're going to defend yourself against that 100%. But you said something really interesting about how nobody fears the NCAA anymore. And I'm starting to look at a pattern here from the NCAA. And this kind of goes back to what happened with Michigan through the course of the season. But you had the recruiting investigation that was going on there, and the NCAA did make a statement to clarify what they were investigating, and is, out of character for them to do that. They're not supposed to speak on an ongoing investigation. Similar thing happened with Connor Stalions here. And now you have the NCAA putting out a statement on an investigation that they're doing into Tennessee with NIL. And for me, it does seem like they are trying to grab as much power as they can right now back into their hands against some of these institutions that are just operating the way that they feel like it makes sense to operate. Do you see this as maybe a tipping point when it comes to the NCAA and their ability to govern sports, and particularly college football?
I do think this is an inflection point. This is a really big case in terms of what the NCAA can do to enforce its rules and what it can't, and what schools are going to cooperate with and not cooperate with. So that's kind of, I think, where the crux is here. Coming on the heels of the Michigan thing, which is still ongoing and will be ongoing for quite a while, but there's been questions to the authority of the NCAA, and especially in the NIL era, the basic feeling is y'all had vague rules and you couldn't enforce them, and now all of a sudden you want to? Good luck. And so, yeah, the NCAA, I think they have been losing the PR battle for years, right? I mean, people have lost faith in them as an entity. They have been this big, vague, faceless bureaucracy that gets criticized often and easily. And the fact that they have made comments here, they did issue a statement in the Tennessee case. They did, obviously, in the first of the two Michigan cases. They were proactive in the other Michigan case in terms of distributing information to the Big Ten and to Michigan. Those are unusual factors that I think hint at the fact that they're tired of losing the PR battle, and they're tired of sitting back and just being a silent partner in these things until there's a ruling at the end. That, I think, also goes to, we've got a new guy in charge. President Charlie Baker was former governor of Massachusetts. Politicians are used to controlling the message. The NCAA has never controlled the message, and I think he wants to try to reclaim some of that area.
Pat, with the NCAA, so they're fighting Tennessee here, and we said they're fighting Michigan, and they're fighting a number of different battles, but they also kind of have their hands tied legally in some instances, right, of like what they can investigate. Can you help describe some of those obstacles and why people in institutions are starting to resist them, understanding NCAA is limited in what they can go after?
Yeah, I think that's a good point and a key kind of distinction on what the NCAA can and can't do. They don't have subpoena power. Now, it's interesting. If they get sued, now all of a sudden you let them enter into discovery and perhaps subpoena the people that are suing them, and that could change the game there. But in general, they can't. They cannot compel Jim Harbaugh, as former coach at Michigan, to sit down with them. They don't have that power. When he was at Michigan, they could make him, but he's gone. And Jesse Minter's gone and other people are gone. So does that limit their investigation to a degree? That's kind of always been one of the problems there. They have found ways to compel current student athletes and current staff to cooperate. But people that are outside of that purview, which is where a lot of stuff happens, and look, Spire Sports is the third party, the collective at Tennessee. They don't have to cooperate with the NCAA if they don't want to. They can tell them to kick sand. So there's a lot, I think, of limitations to what the information they can get at, and it does hinder their ability to prosecute some of these infractions cases. The kick sand thing is so interesting to me because I think that over the last few years there has been this shift in mentality from some of the schools where it's like, yeah, we're going to cooperate from the standpoint of we'll sit there in the interview, but when you ask me a question, I'm going to do like, have you ever seen the Lil Wayne deposition where he's like, I do not recall? That's all I'm going to give you because this isn't a legal proceeding. I really shouldn't have to be here. And so I'm curious now that you see this, there's litigation going on. Obviously, we talked about, Tennessee and Virginia getting involved in that. There's been other litigation against the NCAA. It seems like, again, a spot where, things are very tenuous here. What do you see as the way forward? Because I think that there are a lot of people right now who would like for college football, college basketball, etc., to take power for themselves. Do you see that as the outcome? Maybe not immediately, but a couple years down the line. Yes, that's definitely a topic. And I will say, I conflated two sayings there, kick rocks and pound sand into kick sand, so that's bad on me.
I like that one, though. Yeah, we'll kick sand.
We can add that to the lexicon. Anyway, look, that's, I think, one of the big movements that's kind of under discussion here. Is there a way to separate football and maybe basketball so that we don't have these disparities in the way programs are run and the way universities approach college athletics and so forth, because they're just different entities. And we have seen now we are in a situation where the UCLA, USC, Oregon, Washington volleyball, softball, soccer teams are going to be traveling midweek games to play in Piscataway, New Jersey, and College Park, Maryland, and State College, Pennsylvania. It doesn't make sense. Football once a week, given the money at stake, given the amount of expense that can be afforded for high-level travel, professional-level travel, maybe you can make a justification for it. But the other sports, it's very hard. And so can you kind of untangle some of these arrangements that football has dragged everyone into and make them better for a whole athletic department? I don't know, but there's a lot of people that think that needs to happen and eventually will happen. The ultimate Armageddon scenario, which I've had people propose to me, is football actually just leaves the university. It goes and becomes a separate entity. They rent the stadium, they rent the big house, they rent the horseshoe, it's Wolverines Incorporated, Buckeyes Incorporated. You use the facilities, but you pay for that. You pay for the licensing for the nickname and the colors and the logos and all that stuff, but you're not technically affiliated with the school. That would be Armageddon. I think it would stink for a lot of people. I know there's a lot of guys, probably like you two, who took advantage of the education and want to be part of a university community, but there's also a lot of people that say, we don't want to be part of it anymore.